I'm with Terry Madonna, Franklin and Marshall pollster, a political science professor over at Franklin and Marshall, and a guy who keeps his hand on the pulse of what's going on in America. And Terry, when you look back on this week, I think the Democratic debate jumps out. It was maybe one of the more entertaining debates, and yet at the same time, it was kind of like a circular firing squad occasionally. What do you take away from this debate? It was really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched these debates for decades, and I don't recall a debate that was more contentious, more filled with vigor, if you will, and a real sense that each of these candidates that were on the stage last evening had something to show. And essentially, it wasn't about the issues. It wasn't about the policy. It was about going after their perceived opponent. By that, I just don't mean the attacks on former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, which Elizabeth Warren started with. The rest of them jumped on. But you even had a point where Mayor Pete Buttigieg went after Amy Klobuchar, and it was pretty strong. So they literally, and then at one point, Elizabeth Warren attacked every one of her opponents.
She did.
And the language that was used was really stark. It was really bitter. I mean, it was a bitter debate. And poor Joe Biden, who I thought had actually a pretty good performance when he spoke.
Which was hardly ever.
Yeah, the problem was it was so contentious and so bitter that, the only thing he could do is respond. It's not like these candidates could spend an inordinate amount of time laying out where they would like to take the country and what policies they pursue. And there's another big point. I think Americans over the course of our lifetime want ultimately an upbeat, positive, optimistic tone and program and and policies, and that's, I don't care if you're talking about Democrats like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, or Republicans like Ronald Reagan, and even George W. Bush. I mean, they all had positive, upbeat messages. I didn't see that at all.
No,
I didn't see that at all.
It was interesting to watch everybody coming out of the gate because Bloomberg, first time he was on the stage, so that's the reason I was watching it last night. He spent $400 million. A lot of people were saying he's trying to buy the election. The billionaire thing does not fly well with the Democrats, especially billionaires from New York. They have some experience with losing to one of those. And so you look at that, and then you have the Socialist Party thing, even though it's not socialist in terms of communist, it's more of a social democratic kind of thing that you see in Europe. And Bernie's trying to explain that. I don't know if he's doing it that well to the people who he has to sell it to, who aren't buying it. And then you've got Buttigieg, who's got, and again, I'm not putting the judgment on this, but has the gay thing that I don't know if that's going to settle America in the long run when it comes out. I don't know. I don't know. You got Vice President Biden who's trying to preach Obama, and no one's buying that right now. And Obama's over there on the Bloomberg commercials. He's not on Biden's commercials. You have Amy Klobuchar, who's kind of middle of the road. And I think Buttigieg comes off as maybe the most affable, likable guy on the stage. Bernie seems like the nasty uncle that the baseball goes in his yard and he keeps it. He won't let the kids have it back, right?
Well, yeah, I think you're pretty much on target there. And the other thing is there's real growing concern that, remember, Sanders has, and I looked 2 days ago, a 10-point lead nationally.
He does.
But he has a 14-point lead in Nevada, 14 points. And then you get to Super Tuesday where you can't rule out that at the end of the day after Super Tuesday, where we're talking about over 40% of the delegates, counting, the 4 that will take place before Super Tuesday, then you get Super Tuesday with 14 states. You can't rule out that Bernie Sanders ends up. I'm not saying he will. I'm saying you can't rule it out that he ends up with 40% of the delegates and could well be on his way to the nomination. And then you've got the establishment Democrats that think, oh, my gosh, he can't beat Trump.
Right.
He can't beat President Trump. And that's a growing concern among the establishment. And we'll have to see if they react the way they did in 2016 by helping Hillary. I
heard Elizabeth Warren say last night, well, of course I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is. But you know what? It sounded very half-hearted. It didn't sound like I'm going to throw my full support. They're so into each other right now trying to win. And I understand you're going to get some of that. And yet, as I said, I saw CNN today characterize it as a circular firing squad. And the Republicans are standing over there, as you said, very gleeful. Final thoughts on this. Who Bloomberg took a beating. I didn't think Bloomberg came off well at all. He's not a public speaker. His ads are crafted wonderfully, but now you get him out on the stage, and all of a sudden people say, "Oh, this guy's kind of a zero," right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he was a very, very poor performance, not just in terms of what he said and how he presented it, although he did go after Bernie Sanders, and he says, "Well, you own 3 homes," and he went on about
right.
You're a millionaire, trying to make the point that
right.
Yeah, he's a billionaire, and he did try to explain, if you will, his background, how he started from nothing and built the business up. But you're exactly right. I mean, it's something like $330 million of the $400 million went into these commercials, which are not arguably very, very good. And I guess we're just going to have to see in the polls that come out whether this had an effect. In other words, did this debate have an effect? And I would think if it has an effect, it would be on Bloomberg because of the attacks and the fact that he did not handle them very well. He also has a demeanor that's not particularly good.
No.
And demeanor says something. You know, how you look and how you comport yourself.
Smug,
that's all very, very
condescending. Yeah.
That's all very, very important. And so we're just going to have to wait and see if the debate literally produced any big changes. But Warren, I thought, it was one of her better performances.
I agree.
And I'm not saying this as a supporter or opponent. We're just talking.
We're just talking, dissecting
objectively. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that she had one of her more effective performances. I thought, given the structure of the debate, I thought Biden did much better. There was less confusion, less halting, less confusion, which he seems to have sometimes when he's explaining things. But overall, the question is, does it make any difference? And he needs a bump, believe me.
Yeah, he does.
Because if he doesn't win South Carolina,
he's done.
Saturday a week, there's no place for him to go.
Yeah, I'll be anxious. I thought Warren was very passionate last night. I thought she went after everybody. She voiced the concerns I think Democrats have about socialism, and that was it. Hey, Terry, great having you on this morning. Thank you for being with us. We always appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Terry Madonna, Franklin and Marshall pollster. Don't forget to listen to our show weekdays 6 to 9 here on News Talk 93.9 and 910 WSBA.